There you go.
Okay, that
Okay.
sounds promising. It's still kind of loading something on this other screen though. I'm going to wait until I get that because then I think what'll happen is we'll be able to see like the chat thing. There we are. Look, we are officially live. Of course, I
All
have to mute
right.
myself. All right. So, welcome everybody, whoever is tuning in live and whoever is watching the recording after the fact. So, welcome to another SIBO and IBS success story live stream panel. So, here we are. Right now, I'm joined by Allie, and she's going to be sharing a little bit about her story and what ended up really helping her. And then in a little bit, another person, Jennifer, is going to be tuning in, but she was running about 15 minutes behind when we wanted to start. So she's just going to join us when she's able to join us. So, Allie, first of all, round of applause to our guest of honor. Round of
Hey,
applause.
good morning.
Where do you want to start? I don't know. I think a good
Yeah,
place to start would be sharing a little bit of your story, like,
yeah,
you know, symptoms, diagnoses, the journey. I mean, as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing, and
sure.
then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I've had problems my whole life with my gut. And when I was about 12, I think I started getting heartburn and I didn't realize, but it was whenever I ate gluten and I didn't realize that. But it was when I was 12. And I remember telling my dad I thought I was having something stuck in my throat because I didn't know what heartburn was, but I had chronic heartburn since the age of 12. In 2015, I started getting really bloated. I mean, I looked 9 months pregnant and just out of the blue, and I could not eat any. I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't know. I had no idea what it was. I went on a liquid diet for I don't even know how long. I went to every single specialist in at that time I was living in Colorado. I was working I work in healthcare and I was working in healthcare then, and all my friends were doctors. And I saw the GI specialist, I saw the general surgeon, I had colonoscopies, I had EGDs, every single thing. And they put me on, I believe, probably 6 different rounds of just regular antibiotics
Ooh,
over and over and over again. They put me on a PPI, they put me on omeprazole for,
because why not?
yeah, why not? Just, yeah, because those are going to help. And then finally, they put me on amitriptyline, which is a tricyclic antidepressant, but it also has been used for people with IBS, right? So they put me on that and it actually helped. For about a year, I was in remission and I thought all my problems were solved. I still realized that whenever I ate gluten, I had really bad heartburn. So I just totally stopped eating gluten around 2015. When it came back in about 2017, I was in nursing school and it was just horrible. It overtook my life. And again, over and over and over again. But by that time, I had started doing my own research and I had started looking into functional medicine. And so I
Okay.
found a functional medicine practitioner, and that's approximately when I started doing when I got the SIBO diagnosis. And I finally was like, oh my gosh, this is totally my symptoms. I just have these bad gut bugs. And
Somebody finally
yeah,
figured it out.
somebody finally figured it out. And then that's when I was first introduced to low FODMAP. And it didn't really work ever, never
Hmm.
worked. Then I went to and found the carnivore space, and I went and did carnivore
I forgot you did
for,
carnivore. Oh gosh.
yes, I did carnivore for a really long time.
Define
Because by
really
then
long time out of curiosity, like a month, couple of months.
I think it was approximately a year.
Oh,
Yeah, like in and out. And I would try to put stuff back in. And as you know, the more you restrict, the worse things get. So anytime I would add anything in, then my stomach would get really bad. Because by this time, I had lost my ability to eat dairy too.
mm.
Dairy just totally destroyed me. So as you can see, and year after year, it got worse and worse to where I was restricting and restricting and restricting. So out of the we I went and did I did 3 different rounds of rifaximin because that's supposed to solve SIBO. It never helped.
I was going to ask, did it ever
Um,
really help you?
rifaximin never helped once. Antibiotics never helped. And total, I think I stopped counting at 12 rounds of antibiotics in 10 years.
Jeez.
12 to 16, I think, is my total number ended up being. Yeah.
Meanwhile, your poor
All the
microbes are in
yeah.
there weeping.
horrible. And but by this time I had realized like the PPI thing was just terrible. I'd done research on PPIs and I was really mad that my GI had put me on PPIs for a year because I got myself off of it and that was a really hard couple month period where I just had rebound GERD, just horrible. And then and I'm still dealing with this horrible bloat and in food intolerance. I was in a deep depression. I had to bring my own food everywhere I went. It totally destroyed my social life, really. I was really restrictive. I tried to just be happy, but it put me in a deep depression whenever I was in a relapse of the gut stuff. Finally, I did a couple rounds of antimicrobials and I was symptom free for about a year. And then February 2022, I pretty sure that I got food poisoning. And then I went to Hawaii, and because my gut had been so good, I went to Hawaii and I ate all the things. And I came back and I just was right back into bloating every single day and just everything was terrible. And this is when I got really crazy. I started doing the elemental diets over and over again.
Yeah.
First, I started with the physicians, which made me worse. All the dextrose just made it, first of all, it tastes horrible. So I started doing rounds of just really, really, really restrictive. I mean, extremely restrictive dieting. And then I bought everything I could find. I bought. Nothing worked. I did another couple rounds of antimicrobials, did not help. And then I started watching your videos on YouTube. And then
meta little moment here.
This was about a year of February, March of 2020. Where are we now? 2024? Yeah, it was this year, right?
Time warp. Yeah, August of 24 right now.
When did I start with you? I can't remember.
Just in April of 2024.
Okay. So January, February, because I was really bad. Like my stomach was really bad. I was just watching all the YouTube videos I could find, and I found you. I started watching all your videos, and I told my partner, I was like, I think I've been doing this all wrong. I think I'm making myself worse. So one last ditch effort. I'm not going to mention her name because we're not going to mention this person, but I found this person who has a homemade elemental diet online. And I don't know if you're not supposed to like say people's names or whatever, but this person is a specialist for SIBO, and they created a homemade elemental diet. So for 14 days, I consumed nothing but essential amino acids and like a tablespoon of coconut oil. And I didn't even use the honey because the honey was making me bloated. I lost 12 pounds in 14 days.
Oh, geez.
And then as soon as I added eggs, like literally as soon as I had anything in, I was right back to bloated. And I felt amazing after the 14 days. I mean, I was like, like a little weak scarecrow, but I didn't have any bloat for the first time in a year.
A little weak scarecrow. Well, it makes you wonder, like people throw these numbers around, right? And say, oh, the elemental diet has an 85% success rate. And I will admit I'm biased against the elemental diet. So I will be perfectly clear and honest. I have not read a great deal of that body of research because I would avoid that at all costs. But it makes you wonder, okay, are they defining success as repeating a breath test, which we now know sucks pretty badly and gives a lot of false positives? Are they defining success because people feel good when they're on the elemental diet, even though they add things back in afterwards and they feel like hot garbage? Like, how are we defining success rates here?
Well, to me, it rifaximin too, because I'm now a nurse and I help people with SIBO, and I haven't met anybody that's had complete success with rifaximin. Not a single person.
Not long-lasting, certainly.
I also did Pimentel's three-parter, which is motegrity, low-dose naloxone, and erythromycin. And that was right when I started with you. So yeah, causation, what helped? I'm pretty sure it was your course because nothing else had helped before. So finally, I'm on the plane flying from a work trip after 14 days of not eating food. And I downloaded a bunch of your videos where you started talking about the FODMAP freedom.
Ah,
And I came home, I told my partner, I'm going to invest in this. Yes, it's $3,000, but over 10 years, well, it'd been 9 years, 2015 to 2024 at this point. Over 9 years, I have spent, I can't even think the amount of money, thousands a month. I mean, just on supplements alone, much less like flying to specialists. And I mean, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And
And
I'm
the
like,
misery of the carnivore diet, the elemental diet, all of the stuff that you've done
misery.
too.
And the hope of being able to actually eat food again, which I didn't actually think it was going to be possible for me. I really didn't. I didn't believe you.
You thought, oh, she's full of prunes, this DiNezza lady. Let's just see what she's got up her sleeve.
And I treated it as also a chance at education, and learning. And also I'm willing to try anything. If you're willing to basically starve yourself for months and months at a time, like you're willing to do anything. If you are willing to do anything. Right. And I started with you and I watched all your videos and I took notes and I really did everything you suggested, even though I was really scared to break my habit of, at this point, I'd been fasting, intermittent fasting for 10 years.
Yeah.
Where I would only eat breakfast and lunch and I wouldn't eat dinner. I was waking up at between 3 o'clock in the morning and feeling like hot garbage every single day. I was getting at most 7 hours of sleep, average about 5 to 6, working out. And this is still a little problem for me. I'm still too much of a workouter, but I mean, I was going on 5 hours. Yeah. And working out 3 hours a day and eating only 2 meals a day.
Yeah.
And
there's no way.
And I don't remember what point it was, but you gave this example of your boss, and this sticks in my head. If you go to work one day and your boss just gives you 8,000 assignments and you're just scrambling all over the place, and then the next day you have nothing to do, and then the next day you're stressed that you're doing all this stuff, and you equated that with the way I'm basically treating my body. I'm eating 2 meals a day and then I'm starving myself, and then I'm binging, and then I'm starving, and then I'm doing all this and I'm doing all that. My body does not know when to process food. I'm not giving my body a chance, and that stuck with me. And I said to my partner, it's going to be really hard for me to stop tracking my nutrition, and that's because I have a eating disorder. Basically, I was chronically under eating. I was starving myself. I was fasting. I was doing all the things that in the health space, you're told to chronically be in a caloric deficit.
Yeah.
And intermittent fasting, you must do.
Oh, everybody on planet Earth should do intermittent fasting, according to internet lore in 2024.
And I've been teaching it to I'm a health coach, and until I started realizing that people were under-eating, severely under-eating when they were doing OMAD or TMAD. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm leading people into like metabolic crisis and starvation response. I can't teach this. So even though I was teaching people not to do that, I was still doing it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you said just eating 3 meals at the same time a day, my sleep, immediately.
I remember there was one Q&A when you came and you said, this is the metaphor that changed my life. Holy shit, this is it. And you had that epiphany on one Q&A, and it was literally the next week's Q&A where you came in and you were like, I'm sleeping through the night. I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. This is a goddamn miracle.
Yeah.
It was that quick.
Hello. And just being willing and just all the information. I love learning new things, especially when it comes to gut health, because I've had to unlearn so much nonsense.
You and me both, man.
So yeah, I can just say there's been so many nuggets, that little DiNezza nuggets that stick in my brain all the time when I come home from work and my instinct is to be like, no, I don't really need to eat. I can just go to bed. That's disordered eating patterns.
Yeah.
Saying, yeah, I'm hungry, but if I just go to bed, I won't notice it. Yeah, that's disordered eating pattern.
Yeah.
And it was destroying my gut.
And it's so common. That's the really like mindfucky piece of this too, is that there was a survey from UNC Chapel Hill that I put in like module 1 of FODMAP Freedom. And they did a survey of, I think it was 1,000 women. And they showed that about 10% of women have an overt outright eating disorder. And then I think it was like 75% of women have some flavor of disordered eating.
Yeah.
Like labeling foods as good or bad, being in too
Yeah.
much of a caloric deficit,
Yeah.
shitty relationship with food. Like there's so many different kind of sizes and shapes that can take on.
Oh, yeah. Mine is definitely punishing myself by over exercising
Mm.
when I'm deeming myself like, oh, I ate too much yesterday. But just so many things that, and then, yeah, I still can't do dairy, but like I told you at our last thing, I'm like microdosing myself with dairy. And
That's right.
oh, by the way, probiotics. I never was able to take probiotics before. I take probiotics every day now. My totally regular bowel movements, which before was like never happened. Gluten. I do not get heartburn anymore at all.
Hey.
At all. Not even a tiny bit of heartburn do I get with gluten.
But wait, isn't gluten inflammatory?
I'm
joking. I'm joking. No, it's, hopefully I've taught you well enough to say, I think that there's a difference between, hey, a fair number of people have difficulty tolerating or processing this food versus
Yes.
saying the food is just outright evil. Right. And
Yeah.
actually, I was telling somebody, I was meeting with a prospective student yesterday, I guess, and I gave the analogy and said, it's kind of like if you have an allergy to cats and you get like itchy around cats. I hope that your response to that is not to assume cats are just evil and bad. We need to annihilate all cats from planet
Yeah.
Earth. Cats are the problem. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. In
Right.
that scenario, you would say, oh, what is it about my body
Yeah.
that makes it difficult for me to be around cats? Or why have I lost tolerance to cats or
Yeah.
dust or whatever it might be? So
Yeah.
similarly,
The gluten thing makes me really positively know that my gut flora has changed, and I can eat raw cabbage now. I mean, I eat vegetables now. Like before,
crazy.
I mean, it's crazy because I couldn't even eat a piece of broccoli without blowing up, looking like I was 9 months pregnant. I promise you, like that was my life. I couldn't touch anything. And yeah, like still the dairy is a problem, but that might just be genetics too. I'm genetically predisposed to be dairy intolerant per 23andMe. And I don't know, nobody else in my family is, but I have hope. I have hope that once I'm really healed, I might be able to do dairy again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be frank, you're still a fledgling on this journey. Like you've come a
Yeah.
long ass way and you feel way different than you did in April when we first met.
Oh my
But
God.
we only just started this journey like 4 months ago. And you
No.
had some of these ahas, 2 or 3
Oh,
months ago. So it
I
just
can
might
wear
take some
pants
time.
again. I can wear my clothes again. I'm generally a size 6, but I literally had to buy size 10 pants because I was for a year so bloated I couldn't fit into any of my pants. And it makes you having to wear sweatpants to work every day. You just feel, I don't know, it's just, you feel like you're never going to get off the wheel. You're in a hamster wheel and you're running, and you're doing all the things, and it's really defeating. It put strain in my relationship because I was so depressed. I remember 2 weeks before I found you, laying on the floor, just crying, just being so, I had lost hope. I totally had lost hope. And I think for people that haven't been through this process, they might be like, what, you're bloating, so you're crying and you're suicidal. It's like, no, you don't understand. This is 10 years of feeling like you're
misery.
never just, you can't think about anything else
Yeah.
because everything you go to put in your mouth, you wonder what's going to happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like you
And
can't,
like you said, you had spent so much time and effort and money trying to fix this problem too.
and I've been willing to try everything. I tried
And you
everything.
did. You did. You get A+ marks for being an open-minded student. But yeah,
So
but
open-minded.
I think that that's part of what made you really successful in my program is that, to be quite honest, I've seen people go through either working with me privately or working with me in FODMAP Freedom, and they spend thousands of dollars, presumably to get my advice and take action on that advice and get better, but then they still won't. And it's a
Yeah.
really bizarre kind of thing for my
It's,
brain to wrap my head around. Like, you spent all this
yeah,
money,
right.
you're here.
It's
Just do
interesting to
the
witness
thing.
in the group sessions that we have, just thinking like this person is arguing with you about why are you here if you're going to argue with the person that's teaching you stuff? Just try it.
Well, and I mean, I'll have a debate with anybody as long as it's cordial. But yeah, it's kind of funny that some
Weird.
people are just so resistant to
Yeah.
doing the things. And I think a big part of it, at least for my work and kind of how I work with this stuff now, it's like oftentimes 90% of what's effective for 90% of people ends up being really simple and unsexy and
So simple.
unglamorous. So like eating dinner and then getting better sleep, like that was huge for you. And that's
Huge.
so unglamorous, unsexy. Like here you had done all of these fancy schmancy prescriptions and like
Yeah.
homemade elemental diet and the
Oh yeah.
carnivore diet, and you went to every extreme possible. But it's like, I think it's a tough pill to swallow sometimes that the answer was kind of right there in front of your face the whole time. But
Yeah.
it's like you get these blinders and this tunnel vision,
I
and
never would have, no, I never
the
would have thought it
thing.
was the fasting ever, ever. I never would have put that together. I thought the fasting was helping me because that's what you're being told from
Oh yeah.
that you've got these
Migrating motor
senescent cells.
complex, baby.
Yes. And the senescent cells, and you've got, the repair happens when you're in a fasted state. I thought the more I fasted, the more my gut was going to be repaired. And yeah, I never would have put those things together.
Yeah,
And I mean, I was totally skeptical, but I did
but you did
it.
it. And here you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a real honor coaching you again. A, because it's just fun to watch somebody like
It's
turn their
work.
life around like this. But you've been a pleasure to work with. And again, you've been really open-minded. And I remember talking to you many times and saying, I know it's going to be scary. Do it anyway. Like take baby steps anyway. And I remember saying, hey, this is going to take some time, but you've got to at least take the first step. But you did every time I asked that.
Allowing myself to eat an apple and a nectarine in the same day. Do you know how many carbs that is? Like, I still have to
I
stop
don't
myself.
actually.
I do, and I shouldn't. It's 25 grams of carbs in an apple. I add up my macros in my head, and I just have to stop myself and be like, nope, you are healing. You're not in a cut phase. You are not
Yeah.
losing weight. You are healing your gut. You are healing your gut. Stop. I mean, just being in um, being so focused on having the perfect macros that I've always macronutrients breakdown that I've just kept these macros for so long,
Yeah.
and allowing myself to eat over 100 grams of carbs in a day, to me that was so scary. But I was just kept telling myself, do you want to be well? Do you want to heal or not?
Yeah.
Eat the freaking apple,
Just
man.
it's like the Nike slogan, just do it at the end of the
Just eat
day.
the apple.
Yeah. And you know, again, kind of going back to the idea that I don't think the journey's over for you yet, per se. And I know that you
Oh,
know that too. Like,
yeah.
again, kind of unwinding that in your brain of like, why are you counting macros that much? And like, kind of working on the eating disorder stuff. I think that's going to be the next phase. But you bring up this point almost where I think sometimes people have to look at their priorities and they have to go in phases with their health. we have this idea that I am here and I'm not healthy, but then over here on this like mountaintop is the goal. I want to be a perfect healthy person, but along the way, you might have different goals to get you to whatever you deem to be healthy. So, for
Yeah.
example, we've had students who come to FODMAP Freedom. They're like, I want to heal my gut and also I want to lose weight. And I'm like, ooh. And I
No.
always have a conversation with people about this. I'm like, I totally am with you. If that is a goal for you and that's something you want to accomplish, that's great. However, two things to know. A, FODMAP Freedom is not a weight loss class. And B, if you try to do both at once, you will fail at both.
Yeah.
Like you kind of
Yeah.
almost have to, in that situation, you almost have to let go of any goals you have regarding your weight and your
You do.
physique.
You
Just
do.
focus on
Yeah.
becoming a healthier person. Yes, you might be a
Yeah.
healthier person who's still overweight, but focus on becoming healthy and resilient first.
Yeah.
And then once you feel quite a bit better and your gut is quite a bit happier, then you could go into more of a weight loss cutting kind of phase, but you
Yeah.
really can't do both at once. You're going to
No.
fail at both.
No. And for anybody that's listening to this and that starts the program, and then you realize that Dr. Ness, she asks you to track your nutrition, and you'll think like, but didn't that lady say she stopped? Well, my situation was different because I have been tracking my macronutrients for 10 years, and I had become so overly focused on staying at a number, which I am ashamed to say is 1,400 calories and below for somebody that works out like 2.5, 3 hours a day.
Meanwhile, my almost 9-year-old probably eats about that much. To put it in perspective for some
Not
of
a
you guys,
number
like
that is,
that's not enough.
it's so stupid. Which, it's, and like way I mean, I was at probably 50 to 70, high range would be 75 carbs a day. And then but my diet was so limited because of my SIBO that I just was eating like hardly anything.
Yeah.
And so when I started the program, I realized in order to heal, I had to stop tracking because, like I said, I was so focused on, oh, I can't eat that. That's going to push me over my macros.
Yeah. And
So
that's not going to help you in this
for
case.
me, I just started throwing stuff in. I mean, I was just every day I would go, I was when I go grocery shopping, I would get something different every week. Okay, this week I'm going to try, what, grapes or something. This week I'm going to try this. And you gave us those sheets. I printed out the sheets and I was checking off every time I was putting new foods in. But I'm going to tell you, the most exciting was garlic and onion.
Yeah, baby.
Oh my God.
That's right. Where
Being
is
able to
it?
eat garlic
Here.
again.
This is very hard to do on camera. I can't figure out.
There
Oh,
it
my
is.
brain is so confused. There's the garlic.
Not being able to eat garlic for 9 years. Oh, heartbreaking.
That's why you were on the floor crying that one time. It was because of the garlic. I know. That would be enough for me. Hi, Jennifer.
Bye, Lisa. Sorry, I'm so late.
No, you're good. You're right on time. We were just talking about Allie's story, and now you can join us for this portion. And I know Allie has to hop off at some point too.
I'm going to hop off, but I'm going to see you guys at the flock, in the flock.
Yes, that's right. My little ducklings come together in the flock. I'm
just going to put in one little plug for anybody who's watching this and you're on the fence. Just do it, man. Just do it. Like, I'm not being paid to tell you this. I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to get emotional. But if my partner was down here, she would tell you the same. This changed my life. This program totally changed my life. I would say it saved my life because I was in a state of absolute despair. And you meet some really awesome people, long distance,
case in point,
like Jennifer.
You guys know each other from the Q&As.
It totally will change your life if you just do it. You just give yourself the 12 weeks to listen and learn and do. Just try all the things that she tells you to try. Because I did everything before. I did all the, you asked me anything I tried for my stomach and I tried it. Nothing worked. This program works. That's all. Yeah. It works. And I am so grateful to you, Nikki. So thank you so much. I know I get all teary every time I tell you, but it changed my life.
Yeah. Well, This is
in
the
so
only
many ways.
this is the only downside to doing the virtual thing, is that I wish I could go over to Alaska and give you a hug right now, but
Well,
we'll have to say I kind of loosely keep in the back of my brain where everybody is located. So I keep thinking, all
yeah,
right, when I do, some cheesy Alaskan cruise or Alaskan vacation or something,
you
I'll hunt
are,
your ass down.
oh my God, you are more than welcome. We would welcome you with open arms. My partner is as appreciative as I am to how you've helped our relationship. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys
Of course.
soon.
I will look forward to that. And can I tell you one more thing, by the way, Allie, before I let you go?
Yeah.
So I hadn't told you this, but I have one Alaska related story, and then we'll talk to Jennifer. So when Mike and I were planning our honeymoon, we wanted to stay within the United States somewhere. We live in such a cool country. There's so much to do here and so much to see. And one of the contenders was Alaska. We ended up going to Oregon instead. But when we were talking about Alaska as a possibility, I don't know why, I got it in my brain. There was a place that I found, and they would take you out fishing. And
Hmm.
then, like, they bring you back and you process the fish and flash
Oh
freeze
yeah.
it, and they'll ship it to your house. And I was like,
Yeah.
this was a whole thing. I was like, Mike, this is what we do. We go on our honeymoon to Alaska and we go fishing and we catch a whole bunch of whatever, probably salmon, and we
Mhm.
have them ship it to us. The honeymoon is going to pay for itself, man. This is brilliant. And he was like, you've never been fishing. I was like, I was fishing once with my grandfather when I was like 8. Come on, we can do this. And he's like, we don't even like fishing. I know we like to eat fish, but we don't like fishing. And I don't know if I want to do that for my honeymoon. It was an ongoing debate for seriously like a month. I thought,
Yeah.
oh, this is it. Like, it's going to be a food related trip and a honeymoon all in one. And yes, he ended up vetoing me, and we had a lovely time in Oregon. But I'm going to get my ass to Alaska, and it's going to be spectacular.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'd want to process fish on my honeymoon, to be honest with you. It's pretty gross.
Come on. I
All
I
right.
thought it was a
Talk to
great
you
idea.
later.
Bye,
Thanks.
Allie. Take care.
Bye.
All right, now Jennifer, there you are. I was just going to say, where'd you go?
Oh, I switched from my phone to my computer. So
Oh, now we're bona fide here. We've got the PC up and running,
yeah.
or Apple. Not sure which one you use, but hi. So,
Hi. Sorry I'm a
uh,
bit late because I was helping at the farmer's market and we were busy today.
no worries. What were you selling at the farmers market?
Oh, we sell all kinds of bags,
Ooh,
crossbody bags, yoga mat bags, and shopping bags, all from recycled material. Yeah.
cool. Oh,
Yeah.
now text me pictures of that later when we hang up. That'll be
I
fun to
will.
see.
Yeah, I just bought a bag that's made with sailcloth.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, we don't waste anything. And our proceeds used to help people who are hungry. So we donated
Mm.
a little more than $40,000 last year.
Damn.
Yeah, mhm.
That is
Cool.
impressive. Look at
Yeah.
you go.
Yay.
Well, welcome to the live stream. Like I said, you had perfect timing because we got to talk to Allie for a while, and now we'll get to
Uh-huh.
say hi and talk to you for a bit. So,
Yay.
I guess, what do you want the kids at home to know? I'll suggest maybe telling a little bit of your story, like
Yeah.
symptoms, diagnoses, what did you try that didn't work, as much as you feel comfortable sharing. And then
Okay.
we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. Yeah, I think it all began in January 2019. I had a very bad food poisoning event. And then after that, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. So of course, I went to see a rheumatologist and also a functional medicine doctor. And then I check online, blah, blah, blah. So I got myself on AIP, anti-inflammation diet. And immediately cut my gluten and sugar and lost weight. Like I was melting away.
Mm,
That's a good part. But a few months later, then I developed SIBO.
mm,
So then I develop food sensitivity. Then I develop histamine tolerance. So then I was on one diet after another, and sometimes they
mm,
conflict with each other. So every meal is a hassle, is a stressful event. And uh, at that moment, I have been following you on YouTube for about 6 months. And I was going to participate in the previous one of your session, but I was in school. So then the summertime
Mhm.
came. So, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
yeah.
And what I noticed is your approach is really helpful to me. What's helpful to me is you give us a very, like you said, user manual of your body. So before I would just scare witless. I mean, oh, do this diet and do that diet, and then suddenly all the foods are bad food. I'm scared of food.
Yeah. You're left with organic ice cubes to
Yes,
eat at the end of the
totally.
day, because that's
Yeah,
the only thing that's like low histamine, low oxalate, AIP, paleo,
yeah,
vegan, carnivore. Yeah.
totally. I tried everything. And but you told us to get on chronometer to really realize
Yep.
how your nutritional situation is. And so that's what I did. And you showed us step by step what digestion really is, and what's maybe lacking, and lead us one step at a time to understand digestion process and how to remedy it if you have some deficiency somewhere. And what's good for me is that I became brave. Before I was so scared. It's just like I dare not try anything. Once I get on a diet, I dare not deviate from it because
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm gonna damage myself, damage
Mhm.
my body. But your approach is give me a knowledge, give a step by step. So now I have the confidence to actually experiment on diet. If I take one butane HCl or two, or if I try this, if I use bile or not. Tell me something funny. The bile give me diarrhea, so I stopped diet.
Mhm.
Okay. 2 weeks into your program, my constipation is gone. I told you I have beautiful, beautiful poop.
Bippity boppity boop.
Yes,
Perfect poops.
yes. And I took a picture and sent it to my daughter, like I told you. And then I got on bile. Then I noticed bile kind of got me a little bit of diarrhea.
Mm.
Oh, that's okay. Then I keep on going to the prokinetics. I still haven't got on the probiotics yet.
Mm.
And then I started to notice that how come then the bile gave me diarrhea, so I stopped bile. Then the diarrhea is loose stool is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I noticed that the shape of my stool is still not as thick as before. Excuse me for being so frank.
Oh, please. You're on the Gut Microbiome Queen channel.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to blink at poop talk.
But now I'm so brave to test on myself based on
Yeah.
the knowledge you gave us. So I say, maybe I'll just skip my butane HCl totally.
Mm.
Try 2 days. I pull back to the normal shape.
Okay. There you go.
Well, maybe I don't need to use butane HCl at all, but I'm going to try it for a week and see how it goes.
Yeah. And what I love that you're describing, whether intentionally or not, is that you're willing and able to experiment, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of making observations and then collecting data in this process.
Mm-hmm.
So, like we talked about bile flow in the
Mm-hmm.
program and why
Mm-hmm.
it's important, why it matters, what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave that quiz
Mm-hmm.
to sort of help you self-assess what is the likelihood that you need to improve your bile flow.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave you the tester packet to try out. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, even if you have reason to believe that you need to improve your bile flow, if you try taking ox bile and it doesn't agree with you, or it makes you have loose stools,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's your data point. There's your test. You just proved the point that you probably don't need as much bile support as you thought,
Mm-hmm.
or at least not in
Mm-hmm.
that way. And
Mm-hmm.
similarly, with a history of GERD, there
Mm-hmm.
was some likelihood that you needed butane HCl. So
Mm-hmm.
you're trying it and you're
Mm-hmm.
experimenting and
Mm-hmm.
you're figuring it out bit by bit,
Mm-hmm.
rather than me, the authority figure, the expert, telling you you need to take this. And if you
Mm-hmm.
don't react well to my thing, then you must just be weird or complex because my protocol's always right.
Mm-hmm.
So much of this is, I give you some information, you
Mm-hmm.
make an informed choice, you get
Mm-hmm.
some coaching, you experiment, you maybe come back for feedback with us, and like we're figuring it out together rather
Mm-hmm.
than just a cookie cutter protocol.
Yes, yes, because the knowledge you gave us. So I have the ability to kind of like a chef, add a little bit of this, add a little bit of that, and see how it goes.
Yeah.
And so far, and also later on the program, you told us about vagus nerve.
Mm,
And I think your sequence is so good, because if you put that vagus nerve stress relief program, feel safe, that kind of in the beginning of the
yep.
program, nobody can accept that because everybody is so scared. How do you do that,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
But then I'm being coached, following your protocol. I got some knowledge. I know what's good, what's bad. Then I feel safer just by doing that. Then your vagus nerve program really kicks in. Yeah.
yeah. And another point to be made too is that if you jump right into something more advanced like that, not only like your experience, you might be more nervous or scared or like hesitant to implement some of this stuff or really believe it, but also there are things that are more important than the conversation about vagal tone. So you could be trying to stimulate your vagus nerve all you want, but if you don't have the nutrients or the calories or the protein or the whatever for healthy nervous system function, it doesn't matter. Your nerves need glucose and protein and fat and vitamins and minerals. Like you don't get the function without the nutrition. So that's why that's the very first thing I teach you is how to honestly take a look at your nutrition and figure out where your deficits are and where you need to make improvements.
Yeah, before I labeled myself. Oh, I'm a SIBO person. I'm a food sensitive person. I'm a histamine problem person. So, oh, that's really stressful. But now, after I got on chronometer and I make sure I have 100% of fiber, 100% of protein, 100% of net carb was the enemy. But now I have 100% carb, and I still don't do gluten. I just use a natural sugar, and but I just hit my nutritional mark. This is so now those labels, I just don't care about those labels anymore. To me, I just want to live healthy as long I have the good nutritional foundation. I believe my body will heal itself. Don't let those labels don't let those labels drag me down anymore.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. I just keep on trudging along.
And that's where I was telling Allie, like the answer might be right in front of your face, which is really hard to acknowledge. But it oftentimes people in this world, especially, have such blinders on. They get this tunnel vision and they can only see the one thing that they're focused on. And in the SIBO world, it's oftentimes kill the SIBO, starve the SIBO, you know, fast a whole bunch because you want your MMC to work, whatever the conversation might be. And it's like things like sleep and stress and vitamins and minerals and fiber just kind of fall by the wayside. And they're right here, they're right next to your face, but you have those blinders on and you can't see them.
And to me, it's almost like you're swimming in like a river flowing from up to low, right? So if you just focus your SIBO, want to control your symptoms, you're swimming up against the stream. But if you get your foundation right, start from your nutrition, start from your vagal tone, then you just streaming, gliding down. So it's not a struggle anymore. You're not scared anymore.
I like that imagery that you painted there. Another one that I said on our podcast recently, well, I should say an episode that was recorded recently. I don't remember if it's posted. But when Amy and I were talking about this sort of stuff, I said, it's kind of like for a really long time, most of you have been actively trying to push yourself away from disease. And the muscles involved with the pushing motion are really freaking tired. Right? Like your triceps and whatever, you're pushing against the disease and you're exhausted and you're not able to hold that, and the SIBO or the candida or whatever is winning. But if you could just put your arms down for a quick second, which requires a little bit of surrender, right? You just got to like, sit back in that river and let it take you for a minute. If you could put your arms down for a split second and shift gears towards pulling yourself towards health, A, I think that's the better way to go about it.
Yeah.
But B, now you're using some muscles that are not so fatigued. Your
Mhm.
biceps has
Mhm.
been used in a really long time in this
Mhm.
metaphor. You've been
Mhm.
pushing with your triceps over here.
Uh-huh.
So you switch muscle groups, and now that's a much more powerful
Uh-huh.
motion
Uh-huh.
to pull yourself towards health.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that means that you have to surrender, and for most people,
Mhm.
that means you have to let go of the importance or the perceived importance of the diagnoses, the labels, the testing, the GI maps, the O test, the whatever that you've had done.
Yeah, but take me for example. Before I joined your program, I have nothing else to hold on to, but those label, but those diagnoses,
Yeah.
but those terrible consequences. But your program kind of distract me, move me out of that tunnel vision. And by the way, I want to tell everybody, I also have Candida and H. pylori, so I got everything. But now your program taught us that nutrition is the fundamental things. If you don't have that, whatever you do is
Good
just
luck.
waste of time.
Yeah.
So I know I can do a lot more, but I'm going to do just focus on the foundational thing.
Yeah.
Then that anchored me, that make me feel safe.
Yeah.
That helps me keep going. That help some. Be honest. I have up and down, up and down. I have like acid reflux, constant acid reflux, blah blah blah. But now I know I found the right path. So even if mentally I'm shaken, I feel like, oh, I want to go back to my old anxious person pattern. But with your nutritional program, 90 seconds later, I can just steer myself back on the right path. Just trudging along one day at a time. I put your picture as my desktop. Remember that the straight line to success and the wiggly line to
Yep.
success.
Yep. I love that one.
That's my background.
It's true. It's so for those of you who don't know, I shared an image recently in the flock call where there's a linear graph like this, and it's what we expect success to look like, right? I put in one increment of work, I get one increment of reward. I put in another increment of work, I get another increment of reward. And we think it's going to be this perfect, like 45-degree slope curve, making progress or healing. And the reality is that that graph is more like this, and it's trending the right way, but it's really messy, and there's ups and downs, and it's chaotic, and you're going to have good and bad days. But I think another way to visualize what you just described is that there's always going to be oscillation and like better days and worse days. But when you started this work, it was kind of down here. And now the good and the bad days are more
Yeah.
up here.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
overall trend is much better, but there's still, you're only human, and there's going to be blips and little like swirly things up and down.
Yeah. I think by nature, I'm a more anxious person. If I feel something in my body, I became very vigilant, hyper vigilant to, oh, do I have acid reflux now? What's that pain? Blah, blah, blah. But your program later on, the vagal tone and how to relax, really, before I joined your program, I do meditation, everything, but I didn't really connect the meditation with my digestive tract. But in fact, everything is connected. So my meditation has more substance. I have more understanding. I have more respect to my digestive tract now. In fact, if I have symptoms, I use that as a signal for me to like deep breathe, start your like a mini meditation. So I think the point is I changed the relationship between my ailments and myself. Before it's enemy. I want to escape. I want to kill you.
Pushing.
Yeah, I want to escape. I want to kill you. I want to die right now. But now it's just hello. It's part of my body. I'll just live with it for a while, and it would go away. And tomorrow is another day. I just keep on going. It'll be fine. My body really wants to heal itself. So I really shouldn't burden it with unnecessary emotion, even though I allow myself 90 seconds, but that's it.
Well, again, you're only human. Like we all have moments of icky emotions like fear and anxiety. But yeah, I think it's like how much of your day is consumed by that is the
Yeah.
difference. So it makes a heck of a lot of sense to have that little blip of concern. And honestly, so here's the thing, right? Is like you don't want to be totally oblivious and think that everything's hunky-dory and totally ignore your body. That's not the goal. So I'm going to paint a more kind of in-your-face example. But if someday down the road I developed bloody diarrhea, I don't want to be the nincompoop who's like, dumpty dumpty dum, everything's fine. It's all about mindset, baby. And
Yeah.
just go about my day. Like,
Yeah.
there's a spectrum of symptoms that could be very concerning that you need to act on immediately, and symptoms that you can kind of observe. And I think that oftentimes a lot of the folks that I work with, their symptoms are somewhere on this half of that bell curve where it doesn't necessarily merit an immediate, oh my God, panic response. But yeah, it's like that's where your nervous system tends to naturally go when anything goes wrong. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like being aware of that and reining that in and working on the vagal tone enough that you can assess that on a case by case basis,
Yeah. And another thing I like about your program is once you join, you can always have access to the content. I can
Oh yeah.
even listen to join the Q&A session in the new program.
Yeah.
And I always learn a lot from my fellow students, not only from you, from their own experience. That kind of, oh, there's a light bulb there. There's another light bulb there. So really, so not just your video teaching. Okay, I think a very important part of the program is the Q&A session, and
I
you
agree.
have 4 opportunities a week to
Hours and
join.
hours.
I
You'll get
know.
sick of us.
Yeah, and I usually join 2, and every time I learn a lot from my fellow students, and I feel much better. And I think even when you talk about vagal tone, we talk about connection, right? Even that is a kind of a connection. I feel supported.
Yeah.
I feel not alone. I feel safer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was actually going to point that out too, that there's a method behind the madness. Like everything in FODMAP Freedom is really intentionally constructed. And to be honest, I have had people many times ask me if I would ever consider creating a lecture only version of FODMAP Freedom without the coaching, without the Q&As, without the live component. And my answer has always been and will forever be no. And I'm not trying to be a hard ass here, but the thing is, if it was just about the lecture content and it was just about the learning of the things, I would just put the damn thing here on YouTube and be done with it. But it's coaching, and again, like having somebody's perspective who does not have blinders on, and somebody being able to tell you, hey, there's a thing right there next to your face that it would totally help you if you just like turned slightly to see it. Can you please work on that next? So the coaching and the perspective is a huge part of it, but I honestly think that the community is a big part of it too, because you're right. You're toning your vagus nerve every time you get into those Q&As, even if you just watch it. Like what was in the flock call, what was it early this week? One of my students from a previous group was like, oh, Jennifer, I feel like I know you because I've watched all of the replays of the Q&As and like, I feel like I know you now. And then you guys were so cute exchanging gum brands or something, and it was this really cool little moment of connection where 2 of my favorite students from 2 different cohorts got to know each other and talk about reflux and some of the things that you've dealt with. But again, Joanne felt like she already knew you because she was kind of lurking and watching the replays of those videos. So yeah, just little fun moments like that. You just can't you can't bottle that and sell it, man. You just have
Yeah.
to experience it.
So when the program ended, and I didn't know there's a flock program, I felt so sad. I don't want to leave my sisters. I don't want to leave my
That's why I
sisters.
made the flock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's why I did the flock. Because now,
mm,
for those of you who don't know, so FODMAP freedom is admittedly very intense.
mhm,
Would you agree with this, Jennifer? So I've been told numerous times that it's basically like a college level
yeah.
class, and
Mhm,
it's a lot of learning. It's a lot of intense learning.
mhm,
But you have that really intense learning and the support of the Q&As for 12 weeks. And then alumni are always welcome to attend the Q&As and hang out with us, but most people just don't. And
mhm,
so I wanted there to be some bridge between intense at like academia and a lot of support and learning, and
mhm,
then what could feel like not a lot of support or not a lot of learning. So I
mhm,
created this, it's a monthly meeting. I call my students my ducklings, and I'm the mama
mhm,
duck. So I call it the FODMAP flock, but basically after you graduate from FODMAP freedom, you could join the flock, and then I host a call once a month and Stephanie hosts a call once a month. And it's like alumni hour, like alumni Q&A, and we teach you something new. But yeah, that's the flock call. But I made that because I felt like there needed to be a bridge and an opportunity to keep learning, keep, have that sense of community, have that, Q&A kind of access with me and
mhm.
Stephanie. So I'm glad that it's been a hit. I've really enjoyed the flock so far. And I have a big running document with like 50 or 60 different ideas for topics for the
Oh,
flock, and I keep
cool.
adding to it.
Cool.
So I don't think I'm ever going to run out of new things to teach you in the flock for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, it's a very intense and quick program. Like 12 weeks just flew by. So
Yeah.
so I am going to um listen to I'm going to redo the program along
Yeah.
with the new students to
Yep.
really digest it. And then
Digest it.
a monthly flock meeting
Yep.
actually give us a chance to share our growth.
Yeah.
Share our growth. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
I think that's great. And yeah, we've had some people do that where they go through the program again a
Hmm.
second time, and 100% of them have said, "Oh, I picked up some new things."
Yes,
Because you're different than you were 3-4 months ago.
exactly. Yeah.
Your like mindset, your vagal
Mm,
tone is
mm,
different than it
hmm.
was when you first joined, and you were
Yeah.
probably scared and kind of
Mm,
frantic and
hmm.
like still holding on to these diagnoses
Yeah.
and not very well nourished. So I
Hmm.
think it'll be a cool experience to go through it another time.
Exactly, because your situation is different. So
Yep.
something were relevant, maybe no longer relevant, but
Mhm.
something irrelevant became relevant now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really
Yep.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that'll be good.
Hmm.
Um, Well, let me ask you this. I'm trying to think. Well, first of all, let me take a quick peek at the chat thing because I have not done that yet. I've gotten so into the conversation with you. Let me just skim and see if there's any particular questions for
Okay.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, hopefully Allie didn't miss any because I know she had to hop off. But let me
You're
see.
gonna see me asking how to get on.
Hold on. I'm going to try to start from the top because there might be conversations going on. Um, And forgive me, I don't know if everybody's still on here on the chat right now, but like Max asked, well, I guess I'll wait for a little bit to answer any questions that are more directed to me or the program, and I'll just fish
Mhm,
for ones that are for you.
mhm.
I just saw your comment. This is Jennifer. How do I get on? Okay, I'm glad you saw it because I was not monitoring the chat. Oh my gosh. Well, so much for that. Oh my gosh. Okay, somebody had asked what your symptoms were. I feel like you kind of covered that, but do you want to rehash that really quickly? Megan had asked you what your symptoms were.
Like SIBO symptoms or
I guess just
okay.
symptoms in general.
Yeah, if it's my rheumatoid arthritis, then it's the pain, joint pains. SIBO, then it's mostly bloating and acid reflux. My acid reflux is the silent kind. It goes all the way to my sinus.
Mm,
Horrible thing. That's then my uh food sensitivity, and I really don't have any symptom. It's just a test told me that I have food sensitivity. As
Inaccurate.
as to
Sorry.
histamine intolerance, my functional medicine, because I told her that I've been having a lot of hiccups after just drinking a sip of water. And she said that may be histamine intolerance. And then I got tested and it is, did I have a test? No, actually, I don't have a test. I didn't have a test.
Can I just pause you for a quick second? I
Yeah.
think, and your functional medicine person could be a lovely human being.
Uh-huh.
I do not buy for 1 minute that
Uh-huh.
hiccuping after drinking water means that you have a histamine issue. That
But,
sounds like the bullshittiest bullshit I ever heard in my life. But continue on. Continue on.
but
But
the
I guess,
other
and what did you start off? I know we had mentioned earlier that you did have constipation and bloating in the beginning of
post-constipation
everything.
bloating, yes,
Yeah.
that's the main thing. And it's just a general uneasy feeling in your stomach, in your lower half of that digestive tract. And also for my low histamine, because you have to quit high histamine food, so I quit dairy, no, yogurt. Then a couple of months later, I tried a little bit yogurt. Boom, I got acid reflux, horrible acid reflux. I don't know if it's connected, but I am still staying off high histamine food because I want to understand my body to like a level playing field. Then I will adding more problem things. So I'm very happy with myself now. So I think I'm still bloated a bit. My current symptoms is acid reflux and bloating is not that serious, but I can tell that I get bloatier and bloatier throughout the day. And but it's not a serious bloating. And my acid reflux has been reduced quite a bit. I think the H. pylori protocol
Mm,
is working.
good.
And and plus psychologically I'm freer, so I am not as bothered by my symptoms before. So in general, I feel more relaxed now. So
Which means your vagus nerve is going to work better and your sphincter is going to close better, and it kind of builds on itself.
yeah, now I'm focusing on the exercise you taught us to
Yeah.
tighten the sphincter, the
Yep.
deep belly breathing, and also
Yeah.
some stretch things, yoga poses.
You
Yeah.
actually, as a side note, you were the inspiration, or at least part of the inspiration for one of my YouTube videos, because I taught you that belly breathing exercise in the Q&A. And then I decided, oh, it would be handy if I had a YouTube video that I could just send people with the instructions in case they forgot or something. And maybe other people would like that too. So I filmed a video and put it on this channel about that deep belly breathing, like diaphragmatic breathing technique.
Cool.
So yeah, so
I
you were
think
the inspiration.
hey, yay. I think the theory is if you strengthen the diaphragm muscle, then you will strengthen the sphincter. And so not just, I think it's overall good for your health if you have a strong diaphragm anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, and again, and it's good for vagal tone, which is,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that there's probably two pieces of it. I think that so if the diaphragm muscle is like this, kind of like a dome, and then this is going to look terrible and inappropriate, and you have permission to laugh, but like no inappropriate comments in the comment section, people. Okay. So imagine that my finger is the esophagus and my hand is the stomach. Here's the diaphragm. This is the inappropriate looking part. It kind of does this, right? So the esophagus is poking up through, and where your esophagus is going through the diaphragm is right about at the level of that lower esophageal sphincter. And I'll tell you, you don't realize until you get into like dissection anatomy classes, but everything in the body is connected, even in the sense of nearby tissues are all connected to each other with like little bits of connective tissue and fascia and fat and veins and arteries and nerves. So it's not like a clean, like, oh, we could just pop out the stomach and have it be completely separate from the diaphragm. Like everything's kind of intermixed with connective tissue. So I think part of the idea is that this sphincter is at the level of the diaphragm, and there's going to be some connective tissue and some nerves and veins and arteries and lymphatic vessels in that area that are all kind of connecting it to the diaphragm.
Mhm.
So it's like by training the nearby structure,
Mhm.
you can improve the structural integrity of that
Mhm.
sphincter. I think that's part of it, but
Mhm.
also diaphragmatic breathing, deep belly breathing is good for your vagus nerve. And guess what nerve controls that lower esophageal sphincter, baby? It's the
Vegas?
vagus. It's the vagus nerve. So I think there's
Uh-huh.
like a structural component to that
Uh-huh.
and a neurological component to what we're
Uh-huh.
doing with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's good
Funny
stuff.
that you mentioned fascia. What do you say?
Yeah.
Fascia?
Yeah.
Fascia. Actually, I attended a rolfing session.
Ah,
I had a rolfing session. Very expensive. My husband is nearby, so I'm not going to tell you.
okay.
Okay.
It'll be our secret. Just us and the 40 people watching us on YouTube right
Yeah.
now.
And so it's mainly a fascia work. It's only one session yet. I'm going to give it a try for 4 sessions, see how it goes. She told me that it might help my close up my sphincter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Keep me posted. I mean,
Okay.
there are a lot of cool modalities out there. Like, as you know, I mentioned in the program at various points, like different types of therapy. Even acupuncture gets a mention here or there. Like
Mhm.
there's so much cool stuff out there. And it's just a
Mhm.
matter, I think, of understanding your body and what you want to work on and
Mhm.
improve
Mhm.
and kind of finding modalities and finding strategies that match that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that'll be cool. And I don't think I've heard a lot of feedback about Rolfing yet, so that'll be
Mhm.
fun to get your firsthand or get your experience kind of
Yeah.
secondhand in the Q&As and such.
And that's good about uh this group community program. It's just you pick up ideas from everyone. That's really cool. Otherwise, you're
Yeah,
just sitting alone in a dark mood, Google this
yeah.
and Google that, bits and
Going into the
pieces, and
scary
trying
ass
to connect the
forums.
dots, and always no
Yeah.
way.
Well, and to go off of that for a second too, I have publicly ragged on this for many years. And Amy, my podcast co-host, has also publicly ragged on this for many years. But the 42 people watching this right now, I beg you, I implore you, please leave all of your Facebook groups that have anything to do with gut health or SIBO or IBS, and please get out of the damn Reddit threads. There's the answer you are seeking is not going to be found in any of those groups. Now, I'm not claiming that it'll be found with me here on YouTube either, but I'm telling you, I've seen it time after time after time. You get into that community and you start, engaging with that group, and everybody in there is sick and they're frantically trying to get better. And there's a lot of negativity, a lot of desperation, and it's really hard to make good quality choices when you're approaching something from the frantic, desperate, oh my God, I'm never going to get better. And there has to be an answer here somewhere. I'm going to scroll
Yeah,
for 5 more
yeah,
hours and I have to go on PubMed.
totally,
And like that
totally.
energy will not heal you.
No.
So, find some manner of a community that can help you through this. Again,
Mhm.
it could be with me and FODMAP Freedom,
Mhm.
but I think you were on the flock call most recently, and they mentioned this. We had a husband and wife who went through the program, and they're in Bulgaria. The husband speaks English, so he
Mhm.
was watching the videos and doing the Q&As, but the
Mhm.
wife does not speak English.
Mhm.
So, and she's the patient, so to speak.
Mhm. Mhm.
So he was participating and translating for her.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest shifts for them recently, a couple months now after the program, is that the wife found a friend who
Mhm.
also has tummy issues and IBS, and
Mhm.
they bonded and they started, hanging out and talking
Mhm.
about this. And that was huge for them. And she had a whole week with zero bloating, which is unheard of for her.
Wonderful.
Unheard of. And
Wonderful.
they came to a flock call in July and they were like, oh my God, this is crazy. I can't believe you were right.
Mhm.
Vagus nerve matters. And like, it was just mind blowing for them. But Eva was just saying, sorry, I probably shouldn't disclose the name without his permission. But the husband was just saying in the flock call this week that, he was the one participating in the Q&As and getting that sense of community out of FODMAP Freedom. And
Mhm.
his wife was not. He was just translating it to her.
Mhm.
So it's an interesting case where the wife kind of missed out on that vagus nerve toning aspect of FODMAP freedom and the
Mhm.
community. And when
Mhm.
she found a sense of community and a sense of
Wow.
connection in
Mhm.
her town
Ah,
with somebody who speaks her language,
uh-huh.
that was tremendously helpful for her.
Oh,
So
that's
again, like
cool.
if you want to get that sense of community from FODMAP freedom,
Uh-huh.
cool. But if not, even just making a friend, like a real friend, not somebody
Mhm.
on Facebook or a Reddit thread.
Uh-huh.
Find a real life breathing human being in your
Mhm.
area.
Uh-huh.
Start talking. I mean, 20% of the population
Uh-huh.
has IBS, people.
Uh-huh.
It's not going to be hard. You throw a stick
Uh-huh.
and you're going to hit somebody with IBS,
Uh-huh.
but just start trying to connect with people and
Mhm.
engaging and
Mhm.
talking to them and,
Mhm.
just be a little bit open and vulnerable perhaps. And you
Uh-huh.
might make a friend and that might actually be really helpful for your journey.
Yes. And like I said, I was searching, finding answers, and it's just like I was like pulling this way and I was pulled that way. Never find a really good path to stay on. But now with your program, I can design my own treatment.
Uh,
That's so cool.
And you touched on something too, and maybe we'll briefly talk about this. Um, Probably the number one, uh, um, I don't want to use the word rebuttal. The most common reason why people don't want to do FODMAP freedom and they insist that they want to work with me one-on-one instead of FODMAP freedom is that they think that FODMAP freedom is not going to be customized and it's not going to be personalized for
Mhm.
them. And they think erroneously that it's going to be this cookie cutter protocol that every single person does. And understandably, they can't wrap their head around why that would possibly work.
Mhm.
So, do you want to speak to that for a second? Like, do you feel like we were able to customize the journey for you as an individual? And would you say that not everybody in the group was doing the exact same thing through this process?
Well, talking from my point of view, from my personal situation, I joined the guru
Yep.
because I was thinking maybe I need to talk to you one person, right?
Yep.
Like a personal contact, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I haven't used that opportunity yet because
Not a ton.
the
We've gone back and
community,
forth a bit, but yeah,
yeah,
not probably as much as you thought you needed, huh?
yeah, no, because the community itself is way more than enough.
Yeah.
And the Q&A, I joined two Q&A, and I got enough. I got my
Yeah.
answers, questions. I share my own experience. So I'm still thinking I have to find an excuse to use your appointment.
Well, luckily
Haven't reason yet.
I'm pretty wishy-washy about I tell people on the enrollment page, oh, you get 90 days of tech support with me, but I'll just kind of do it semi-indefinitely. I'm not very strict about that, luckily,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I think between the program itself, like how it's laid out and the
Mhm.
method that I have you go through it, but
Mhm.
also there's this little self-assessment quizzes scattered throughout. Like I mentioned one about bile, for example,
Mhm.
helping you assess whether or not you need to care about bile flow and if you need to work to improve that.
Mhm. Yeah.
There's a
Mhm.
lot of those little self-assessment quizzes. Sometimes we'll talk about lab testing, like when we talk about iron, for example, we talk about how you would measure that in blood work and how to order it on your own if you want to do so, um, and how to interpret those results to get that data out of the experience. So there's like optional data test and testing ability. But yeah, I think the really big thing is if you're open-minded to being coached, whether that mean attending the Q&A, which I highly recommend, or even just emailing. If you email us like once a week or something and say, hey, here were my takeaways from this module. Here's a couple of questions I had, or here was a big epiphany. Like we've had plenty of people go through this program who never attend a single Q&A and they
Mhm.
just do the email support with Stephanie and I, and
Mhm.
they get results and they get better just
Mhm.
doing that alone.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but I think that the key is you need to engage with us and engage with the process
Mhm.
to get the most out of it. If you think that
Yes.
you could just watch the videos and like totally do this journey by yourself, I think you
Mhm.
might have missed part of the point of my teaching here. I think
Yeah.
connection is a big part of it, but
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to
Mhm.
coach you and help you
Mhm.
customize the journey for you as
Yeah.
an individual
Mhm.
instead of making it like a protocol that everybody does.
Yeah. Yeah.
that would be silly and ineffective.
Yeah. This program really give me the confidence to keep on going. And because I now have the tools, I now have the knowledge. So I stopped Googling. I just like, I think I've known everything because
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you taught us everything, but I'm saying is I have known the fundamental things.
You
Then
know enough.
I know enough.
Yeah.
So I am not so the search, the Google search before is just because I was so scared.
Yeah.
I'm not that scared anymore. So I lost the incentive to Google every day.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's going back to that idea of pushing yourself away from disease
Mhm,
versus pulling yourself towards health. So I gave you the knowledge and the tools to know what health looks like and what you need to do to get there.
mhm,
And now it's just a matter of doing the motion
mhm,
versus, it's like when you're struggling and you're pushing against a diagnosis or a disease or a pathology,
mhm,
and your triceps are trembling because you've been trying to hold this position for so long.
mhm.
It's almost like you're looking for the can of spinach so that you can have your Popeye the Sailor Man moment and like, oh, this one supplement that I just heard about in a Reddit thread is going to be the thing that magically makes my triceps super strong, and
Mhm,
that's going to help me push away the disease, and then I will triumph. And
mhm,
it's that search for the silver bullet, the magic
mhm,
bullet, the thing that will cure you.
mhm,
But again, like the answer doesn't lie in
mhm,
pushing away the disease.
mhm,
The answer is pulling yourself towards health. I'm
mhm.
pretty well convinced of that.
And also, I notice a mood, like when it comes to the tummy problem, it seems to be like a taboo to talk about, embarrassment to talk about. So I think that's kind of hinder my improvement too, because it's suffer in silence. You don't want to tell people about this. But in
Yeah.
this community, everybody's talking about the thickness, the frequency,
Oh
the
yeah, the
smell, and
color,
everything.
mucus. Yeah, nobody cares.
Yeah,
Well,
so it's kind of you kind of change your mindset. So once you have a more open-minded, you will tend to look at more things.
yeah,
So that's good. Yeah.
that's a good point too. I
Mhm,
think if I may pat myself on the back slightly for this too, is that I like to think that I've helped create that environment too. A, because we're bringing together a group of people who all have similar struggles.
mhm,
So obviously, we kind of know because of the curriculum and what it is, we
mhm,
know that people are going to be talking about poop. Like
mhm,
that's just the reality of it.
mhm,
But also, I'm an open book. I will tell you anything and everything about my body and not
mhm,
care whatsoever. Like, I'll tell you about my poop, I'll tell you about my period.
mhm,
Whatever, man. We all poop, and
mhm,
most women have had a period at some point in their
mhm,
life. Like,
mhm,
not a big deal.
mhm,
And so, hopefully, I help kind of cultivate that
mhm,
sense of
mhm,
openness and what would be the opposite of taboo? Anti taboo,
mhm,
not, anyway. Um, but yeah, I agree. I think that that's a piece of it also.
mhm,
Just be feeling free to talk about this
mhm.
stuff.
Yeah, for me, I just keep on maintaining my good poop. I think it's the beginning of all the healing.
And you
That's
can
the
look
beginning
down
of
in that
all the
bowl and
healing.
be proud of that poop. That's for darn. I still remember it was like the week 2 Q&A, I think, and you came and you were like, my poop is amazing now. And it was so fun. I joke all the time. I wish that this magic fairy wand was real and I could just wave it and cure
Mhm,
people overnight.
mhm,
Um, Most people who I work with, I think it's really reasonable to expect like 6 months to a year to really work on the stuff and really dial the stuff in and feel tremendously better. But
mhm,
it's really fun when I get to work with somebody like you or Allie who felt monumentally better in such a short span of time. Those are always the treats for me to get to work with somebody like that.
Oh,
And
thank
it's
you.
because both of you worked your asses off. It's
Mhm.
not that, oh, they had easy cases and oh, they just, bippity boppity boop. I gave them
Oh,
one supplement and they were cured. Like you guys both worked your butt off and really did what I asked you. You were very coachable and you were very hardworking.
yeah, I have so many ailments, and I really follow your steps very diligently. Yes, I really worked on my health. I
Yeah.
want my body to go back to the old day to heal myself. I damaged my body. Then I want I'm sorry, my body. I'm gonna take care of you, and so you can heal yourself for me.
Yeah. Well, you touch on something too. So I was at an event recently and they brought this up. I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation, but I could get it to you if you want it spelled out later. It's a Hawaiian prayer, Ho'oponopono, maybe is what it's called. I'll have to Google the spelling for you if you want it later and text it to you, but
Mhm.
it's I believe it went, I love you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yes,
Please forgive me. Thank you.
yes,
And you repeat that. And I
yes.
think, you could direct that towards yourself or your body.
Mm-hmm.
You could direct that towards other people. You could even
Mm-hmm.
direct that towards the world.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that that was a beautiful, simple, but profound prayer and tool. And like here's a great example. And I'll use myself as an example, not even you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love you, body.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, because we've all done dumb things, right? I drank water from a creek and probably gave myself a parasite. If you haven't heard that story, go to episode 1 of the IBS Freedom Podcast. But like, seriously, I drank creek water and gave myself a parasite probably because I was a dumb dummy. And I don't know, like I've taken antibiotics that I maybe should have known better than to take. And like, I didn't always treat my body right, especially in college. I wanted to stay out late with the anime club because I'm just that cool. And I wanted to stay up until 2 a.m. watching anime and then get up at 5 a.m. to go row for practice. And like, we've all done dumb, crappy things to our body. So I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Just even something as simple as that could be a really big game changer for the relationship we have with our own bodies.
Yeah, this goes out to all the mothers. When we were raising kids and we have like a survive on 5 hours of sleep. After kids went to bed, we want some time for our own, right? So we don't go to bed immediately. So we stay
Yep.
up 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then we eat on the run. We eat processed food. We don't exercise as much. Job stress, family stress, blah blah blah. Then I turn 60, boom, everything coming down. Now I'm rebuilding,
Yeah.
building up again.
Yeah. And again, just I think if we can approach the body and our experience with our body from a standpoint of love and appreciation and awe, like it's amazing that the human body is capable of all that it's doing right now, this very moment, let
Totally.
alone the healing you want to do, let alone anything you did in the past. But in this moment, your nervous system is doing so much that you don't even know. And your heart is beating and your lungs are breathing and your colon is, I don't know, like there's so much going on completely below our conscious awareness. And we just take it for granted. We take for granted how amazing our bodies actually are. And then we get all pissy when it has a hard time doing its job. And like, again, understandable. I get how people get where they're at. I'm not going to deny that. And I've had my fair share of like uh, bad talks with my body and saying, you only have one job. Why aren't you doing your job? And like, why are you doing this? And, it's me against you. And I have to fix you because you're broken. Like
Yes.
I've been there. But
Yes.
I think if we can shift that dialogue and start looking at
Yes.
our body with love and appreciation and awe, I think that that's going to heal our vagus nerves too.
Yeah. And I'm still reading the book you recommended, Nutrivore.
So good.
Yeah. And also, I would like to recommend a book.
Yeah.
Jill Bolte Taylor.
Oh,
Jill
My
Bolte,
Stroke of Insight.
and My Stroke of Insight and the whole brain living.
Okay. I'm going to write that down. My Stroke of Insight.
Insight.
And what was the other one? Whole brain
The
living.
whole brain living. Whole brain living.
I just put that in the chat.
Oh,
And while I'm here at the chat, by the way, so C.A. Colbert asked, when does the next FODMAP Freedom group begin? Next week. the doors are open right now, actually, and then we will close Thursday at midnight of next week, because then we have the big meet and greet on Friday. And then the next group will start, I don't remember the exact date, but it's mid-January. So this is the last group that we're going to have for 2024. I put the link in the chat thingy a couple of times, but I'll put it in again in case it isn't visible anymore. But that's where you can learn all about it. You could book a call with a FODMAP Freedom coach and kind of help you understand if this is going to be the right path forward for you. Yeah, well, Jennifer, I thank you so much for coming on here and sharing so much. I guess my only question now is there anything else that is top of mind for you that you want to share with the folks at home? Or do you think that that's pretty much a wrap? I think that we covered a lot of really good bases, and I really hope that people get something out of listening to your story and Allie's story today.
There is a way out of your predicament now. Dr. D's program is one of the ways, and I have been benefited by it tremendously. And also you just have to be patient, and you have to love yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. Be patient, love yourself, find a way that when you find the right way, you knew it. So if you don't have that feeling, then what you're doing now is not right for you. So you have a gut feeling. When you found the right way, you will know it. So trust your feeling.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of like when you fall in love with the one and you know, or you're getting ready to get married and you find the wedding dress and you just you know. You can't describe it until you go through it, but you find your dress and you're just like, yes, no other dress in the whole world matters right now. This is the one I need.
Yes.
And I think it should feel a lot easier and lighter than it feels for most people right now.
Yes.
And again, it's like you're so fatigued fighting this good fight and pushing against the disease for so long and fighting your own body, fighting your microbiome. And again, all it takes is one split second of surrender and then a pivot and a pull. And your whole world can change if you can just do those 3 little steps. Surrender, pivot, pull.
Yes.
All right, my friend. Well, it was so good talking to you. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on the live stream for just a teeny bit longer, and I'm going to go through the chat thing and just look bit by bit and see if there's any other questions that I can answer. Again, sorry guys, I wasn't really managing the chat very well during the live stream. So hopefully people are still logged on, or hopefully they tune in a little bit later for the answers. But thank you so much, Jennifer. I gave Allie a round of applause right in the beginning, so I will give you your round of applause now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing. And I'll look forward to seeing you when we start the Q&As next week, because Stephanie starts her Q&As Wednesday of next week. And then I start mine again on Thursday of next week. So hopefully I'll get to see you at one of mine.
See ya.
It's the same time and same place.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right, gang. Let me scoot this over for a sec. Now it's just you and me here on the YouTubes. Hold on one sec. All right, let me scroll. I'm going to go up to the tip top and just go through bit by bit and see what questions I might be able to answer for you guys. I can't guarantee that I could do this for very long because I have hydrated fairly well and I sort of have to pee. So I could probably stay another maybe 10 minutes, I would guesstimate. But let's see. Okay, so Max had asked, I have dysbiosis and a lot of overgrowth of bad bacteria, but no SIBO. How can I correct that? Again, it kind of goes back to what I had just said about the difference between pushing away from disease versus pulling yourself towards health. So rather than getting super hung up on the individual microbe, do you have Klebsiella or Pseudomonas or E. coli or Candida or whatever it might be? And as a quick pause, I say that because stool testing is not nearly as accurate and useful and reliable as you've been led to believe that it is. So that being said, rather than focusing on the individual microbe and trying to kill and get really precise with it, I would approach this from the idea of what does a healthy microbiome look like? I'll give you a hint: diversity. and what things have been shown to favor or create a diverse microbiota. The two biggest things, and I have some videos here on YouTube, and I actually have a little handout thingy. Hold on, let me pull up the link. The two biggest things that have been repeatedly demonstrated to create a healthy, diverse environment in the microbiome are the avoidance of antibiotics wherever humanly possible, and also having a diverse diet, particularly that is diverse in plant foods. So I always give the example of my Uncle Paul. This is real life. My Uncle Paul, the only vegetable the man will eat is carrots. He will not touch anything else. If it's green, forget about it. Uh, that man could eat 30 servings of carrots in a single week, and he still would not have the microbiome diversity as somebody who ate 20 servings of vegetables, but they were all different vegetables. Right. So quantity of fruits and vegetables matters, but the diversity might matter just as much. So that's my tip for Max. Let's see. Oh no, Shari said that I was just on a group chat with several people waiting for this to start. I hope they figured out how to get here. I hope so too. It's funny because I scheduled the call in YouTube and then I scheduled it separately in Zoom, and I thought I could make the two of them connect with each other, and it kind of didn't. So yeah, that might have been my bad on the tech side of things. Let's see. Scott, there's a couple of things here. Scott said bacteria just go dormant while it waits for food. Yeah, um, there's some truth to that. And I think that that was probably in relation to Allie's story about doing the carnivore diet for a year and doing multiple rounds of elemental, and how she would go back to trying to eat real food after the elemental diet, and she would get bloated and all the symptoms would immediately return. Yeah, that's why the notion of starving the SIBO never made a lick of sense to me. And it kind of scares the bejesus out of me, to be honest with you, because bacteria are smart. You're not going to starve them nearly as much as you think you will. They will just wait until you feed them again. And that's where people get in the cycle of like, oh, I feel better when I restrict, but then I try to reintroduce and it doesn't go well. So then I restrict some more, but then the reintroduction doesn't go well again. And you can get really stuck. And I think that's exactly what happens. I think the bacteria are just hanging out and waiting until you feed them again. But if you can have a better relationship with your microbes and also have a healthy, resilient body, then that's the path to reintroducing food successfully, in my opinion. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And Scott also said that'll fry your adrenals, X-anorexic weightlifter here. Yeah. It's Allie's story was really wild. And to pause, because I didn't get a chance to say this is a good example of how we kind of customize the journey for people in my work and in FODMAP freedom. So as a blanket statement for most people in this world, I would say that tracking your nutrition can be really helpful and it can be eye-opening. And you could see, oh, I actually am not getting enough fiber. Oh, I'm actually not eating enough iron. Oh, I actually barely eat vitamin C, whatever it might be. But for people with a history of an outright eating disorder like anorexia or bulimia, or even maybe binge eating, I would caution them in the Q&As or in email support somehow. I would caution those people to not do tracking because they probably already are hyper aware of what they're eating and counting their calories and counting their macros anyway. And like feeding into that is not going to help that group of people. Again, I think 90% of this population would benefit from using something like Chronometer and going through the nutrition the way I teach it. But there's that chunk of people where I'm cautious giving that recommendation. But this is where like I could have something in lecture format or built into the curriculum itself in FODMAP Freedom. And then we get the opportunity in the coaching calls and the email support to help people make decisions that are right for them as individuals. C.A. Colbert said, food fear is a bitch. Yes, it is. Nothing else to say. Let's see. Okay, there's Jennifer trying to figure out how to log in. Let's see. Megan says, literally everybody around me tells me to fast as it's healing and cleansing for the MMC. Yeah. As with so much else in the world, I feel like there's always this little teeny nugget of truth surrounded by a whole lot of bullshit, right? So there is research on fasting, especially in the last 5 or 10 years. And we know it could do cool things, particularly more prolonged fasting, which I'm personally a bigger fan of, like a 2 or 3 day fast. We could get into the physiology, the inflammation, the mTOR kind of stuff, but basically, there is research that fasting can be good. But if you are fasting and that's a way that you are actually starving yourself and becoming more malnourished, that is a problem. So if you're fasting, but you are meeting your calorie and your metabolic needs and you're getting enough calories, macros, fiber, and vitamins and minerals, and you have that flexibility and that reserve to be able to put yourself through a little bit of fasting, I'm okay with that. But what almost always happens when people start to do intermittent fasting and they skip meals is that they drop their calories and they start dropping nutrients like rocks. And it's a different label for malnutrition. That's what it ends up being for most people. And I will say, I've said this years and years ago. I think that there's a right way and a wrong way to do a lot of things. So the right way to do something like intermittent fasting would be, instead of eating 3 meals a day to get your 2000 calories, for example, if you drop a meal, you need to make sure that each of your remaining meals has the 2000 calories that you need and all of the nutrition and the macros and the vitamins that you need, right? You can't just drop one and then leave the other two as is. You have to beef up those meals in response to that, if you even want to pursue something like that. But another good example, I think that there's a good way and a bad way to do a vegetarian or a vegan diet, right? You can be a vegetarian and sustain yourself on veggie dogs, veggie burgers, tofurkey, weird hydrolyzed modified soy protein isolate products. I'm speaking from experience, by the way, and really eat very few vegetables and just combine the weird frankenfood with like wheat and dairy, and you could call yourself a vegetarian, but I don't think that's the best way to do that. Or you could eat a very healthful, diverse diet that just so happens to not include meat, right? Like there's the right and the wrong way, or like keto. A lot of people do what I call the lazy version of keto. They're doing fat bombs and butter in their coffee. Don't come at me. I'm not a coffee person anyway. But, it's like you're getting all these shortcutty ways to get globs and globs of fat, but you're neglecting the entirety of the rest of nutrition: vitamins, minerals, fiber, diversity. But again, you could call yourself keto. So anyway, soapbox though that may be. Let's see. So yeah, I guess Megan, my point is, I don't think you need to fast, especially as a woman. I healed my gut, what I believe probably would have gotten diagnosed as SIBO. And I healed that without ever hearing about the MMC and ever hearing about the fasting thing. And I was actually eating 6 meals a day. It was 6 small meals a day at the time, and I healed my gut. So you can do it too. C.A. Colbert says many are underweight. Yeah, being underweight is a big red flag that you're not adequately nourished. You're either over exercising, as Allie mentioned, or under eating, or heaven forbid, both. Scott says he misses watermelon. Well, let's get that back in your life, man. That's good stuff, if you ask me. I'm going to disagree with Jamie here. Jamie says only the rich and the middle class will get well. Let's face it, no one poor gets well from SIBO. I disagree very vehemently. And actually, I take like very mild offense to that statement in a weird way. I don't know if that was meant to be a bit of a dig, that my program is fully acknowledged. Like, it's not cheap. It's not for everybody. But I work my ass off to put a lot of free content here on YouTube and on the IBS Freedom podcast. And I've heard a lot of people tell me that they have completely healed their guts and overcome their struggle with SIBO purely based on the free content that I provide. So, if you want to believe that limiting belief, that is your choice. But I know for a fact, because I'm one of the ones doing it, that there are good, helpful, actionable things out there for free on the internet, and maybe you just need to focus on those a bit more. But I've had a lot of people reach out and email saying that they were tremendously helped or cured by what I put out for free. Let's see. Dorothy asks, what is the difference between gastritis and GERD and SIBO? I have SIBO and GERD, but notice you don't treat gastritis per se. Isn't gastritis a general term for an irritated GI tract? Ooh, good question. No, not exactly. So itis means inflammation, and gast is referring to the stomach, not the tummy stomach, but like the anatomical organ of the stomach. Gastritis is inflammation in the stomach itself, versus you could have esophagitis, which is inflammation in the esophagus. You could have, colitis, which would be inflammation of the colon. So gastritis is inflammation in the stomach. You can have that. You could have GERD. GERD is where the acid is actually coming up into the esophagus and refluxing into the esophagus, which is separate, but oftentimes related. And then SIBO would be more of the bacterial overgrowth or the dysbiosis in the small bowel specifically. And keep in mind, you could have dysbiosis in any location, anywhere on your body. So you could have dysbiosis in the stomach in addition to gastritis, and they're related but separate entities. You could have dysbiosis in the esophagus, and you could have esophagitis that goes with that. So yeah, that's kind of how I would parse it out. What I will say about my not treating gastritis is I think the big thing is I'm just not the best person for the job. I refer the vast majority of my GERD and gastritis people over to Molly Pelletier. She's here on YouTube. She also has Instagram. Let me grab her handle really quick. Hold on. Or her website. Pelletier. Here's her website, and then I imagine her website would probably link to any of her free resources like YouTube or Instagram. But yeah, part of it is I can work with GERD and gastritis, and I have before. I just don't knock it out of the park like I do with IBS and SIBO. I would rather send those people to the more appropriate resource, which is Molly. And the other thing, if I'm being quite honest, is that I put that on the FODMAP Freedom page now, and I'm careful to not take on people with really severe gastritis and GERD in my work, because that is oftentimes a really big roadblock that stands in the way of being able to implement what I'm teaching in FODMAP Freedom. Right. So like if I'm sending you some digestive enzymes or betaine HCl or prokinetics, you might not be able to implement those things or try those things if you have more severe GERD or gastritis. So again, I would rather you work on that first and maybe exclusively and kind of get you to the right place versus me trying to run like an IBS, SIBO, bloating, pooping kind of program. And then, oh, BTW, we're going to pay some lip service to the topic of GERD and gastritis. So I can help people with mild GERD or mild gastritis, but if that's your primary chief complaint or that's the biggest deal to you, I'm probably just not the right person for the job. Go see Molly. She's great. Let's see, a couple more here. Okay, Sean said, and this might not be directed for me necessarily. Just curious for others that have done the Ombre gut test. I think I just saw your email today, actually, and I hadn't gotten a chance to reply. My last test came back with roughly 730 species of bacteria. I've seen others on YouTube coming back with 40,000 species plus. Yeah, I will admit I do use that as a very, very loose proxy for gauging diversity. It's not the same as measuring diversity. That's a whole rabbit hole in of itself. But I do look at the number of species generally as kind of a rough proxy of diversity. So I would take pause with that too. My feedback to this person would be, or to Sean would be, I would do a repeat test if it really is freaking you out. Sometimes with stool testing, it could be a matter of how you collected it. So it could be a matter of like how much stool was actually on the swab when you did the test. And it could be a matter of where you sampled in the stool sample. If you do a repeat test, you might find that it looks a lot more normal. Honestly, I don't do a ton of stool testing at this point in my career. But when I do, I will generally do something like Ombre, like a 16S test, but I'll have people do 3 in a row. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they'll do 3 separate collections, 3 different days, 3 different poops, and mail them out. And then when I'm making the report about that, I'm taking the average of those 3 data points for every metric that we're looking at. So if it's a single test, I probably wouldn't lose a lot of sleep over it, personally. Scott said those stool tests are random and not accurate. Yeah, there's a good conversation to be had, though, in something is unreliable, generally speaking, but if you see something interesting, you could explore it a little bit. If I had 5 different stool tests that all gave me that same result, I feel like I would take notice of it, certainly. I know that this person said that he's feeling quite hopeless and down with regards to the diversity of his gut. I don't know if I would go maybe to that extreme and be severely bummed, but I'd be curious. And here's the thing, you don't need a stool test. You don't need a diversity measurement to encourage you to diversify your diet and eat a healthy, minimally processed, diverse diet. So I think you could take action on this regardless of whether you think the test is right or not. So hopefully that helps. Oh my God. Kathy, you win the live chat. Kathy said, I'm actually listening live with my pet duck. That's amazing. I love that so much. We had a student, I think she was in our January class, but her daughter had a pet rat. So she sent me pictures of the pet rat sometimes, and I was very amused by that. Let's see. The Over Brothers. Oh, there's brothers. Hey, really want to join, but can't afford it. Is there any other payment way? Yeah, so we do have a payment plan. I imagine you probably saw that on the website, though. It might just be a matter of maybe saving up and waiting for the January enrollment, perhaps. I'm sorry, I don't have a ton of other options available. I have the 3-month payment plan, the pay in full, and then the Gut Guru upgrade. So I think that would be those would be the 3 options. Hopefully I get to help you sometime in January, though. Somebody said, anybody suffering, stop dairy and eggs. I mean, yeah, you could totally try it. Those are common food issues for people. To be clear, I don't think those foods are bad or inflammatory or evil, but if you wanted to do a little mini elimination diet just to see what would happen, you could certainly try that. Let's see. Taya, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, says, does a diagnosis not really matter before starting to pull towards health? I'm on a list to be tested for SIBO for similar symptoms to your guest, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Honestly, I'm in a really weird place with my career where I'm the SIBO expert who does not recommend SIBO breath testing at all, period, ever. It's so bad. I don't care if you're getting Trio Smart or Genova or whatever. The premise behind breath testing is erroneous. The idea that we know when that substrate crosses into your colon and therefore anything beyond before that peak can be labeled as SIBO is false. We do not know. Your oral cecal transit time, meaning the time it takes for the sugar to make it from your mouth to your cecum, the first part of your colon, is different from person to person. So our ability to judge what is SIBO and what is not based on a breath testing is basically non-existent. And I know somebody out there is thinking, well, not for me, lady, because I had a peak at the 15-minute or the 30-minute mark. Well, I got news for you. There was one study, it was a little bit older. It was from the 1900s, as the kids would say. I'm a fossil from the 1900s, acknowledging that. But there was a study, I think it was from the 1990s, and they showed that oral cecal transit time in people with anxiety can be as short as 10 minutes. So put that in your bonnet. I don't recommend breath testing. And honestly, I think for the most part, the diagnosis doesn't matter tremendously in this world. Now, again, what I said to, I think it was Jennifer, there's a line, right? There are symptoms that are truly scary and urgent and need immediate attention and maybe a more thorough diagnostic workup. And I gave the example of bloody diarrhea. I'm not going to be the nincompoop who gets bloody diarrhea and that is like, the diagnosis doesn't matter, doop-de-doop-de-doop-de-doo, and just going about my day. But if your symptoms are more in line with what I tend to see, which is to say, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, fullness and heaviness after a meal, then I am of the opinion right now that the diagnosis and the label does not matter very much. Let's see. Yeah, thyroid issues. Scott made a good point. Thyroid issues can cause lower esophageal sphincter pressure to lessen. So common with hypothyroid issues. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Thank you for bringing that up. I have no commentary. You're just right. Let's see. Megan said, Dr. D, my SIBO began after I had a baby and my motility was never the same. Yeah, we've had some people go through the program with similar sort of stories. A couple of things pop in my mind. Number one, the low-hanging fruit, the thing that you're probably already thinking of, is that could suggest more of like a structural component to what's going on, meaning something like, like scar tissue almost. I use that word very loosely because people hear scar tissue and they think, oh my God, I'm doomed. But also pelvic floor dysfunction. You have a kid the size of a melon pressed down on your sling for months and months at a time, and then you push the kid through that sling, and that sling is going to be pretty tired. So could be more of like pelvic floor related stuff. The other thing I will share as a mom myself, and my daughter is almost 9 years old now. Her birthday's coming up. What I will share is that childbirth and breastfeeding and the postpartum period, all of this has been the most challenging thing I will ever do in my entire life. Being a parent is not for the lighthearted. It is not, it's wonderful, it's rewarding. I love my daughter very dearly, but I have never been so close to a mental breakdown as I was when she was a newborn. It was just a lot. It was a lot of sleepless nights. It was a lot of stress. It was a lot of prioritizing her needs over my own. It was really bonkers. So I think there's also a very real possibility that going through this process and giving birth to a child or children was stressful enough and taxing enough on your body that you lost resilience or you lost some vagal tone, and that's where the symptoms started developing from. So those would be the two things I would examine. Things like sleep and stress and that sort of interplay with having a child, and also possibly getting evaluated with a pelvic floor physical therapist especially if your symptoms are more pooping related as opposed to bloating related. Um, oh, and she said right here, my problem is upper belly bloat. Yeah, I would probably think more along the lines of like stress, resilience, vagal tone, sleep, that like nervous system health kind of stuff. But maybe that pelvic floor bit will help somebody else too. Let's see. C.A. Colbert said, I do believe so many of the issues are closely related to nervous system dysregulation and vagal tone issues. Yeah. I'm not making this stuff up, man. Like, it's funny. I had a patient, this was a little while ago, maybe a year or two ago, but she got kind of perturbed with me, honestly, because I had the audacity to bring up mental health and stress in her journey. And she wrote me a note in the patient portal, basically saying that she would only work with me moving forward if I promised that I would never mention stress again. And there's a lot to unpack there, but one of the things she said was that she was really surprised that I brought this up because that's based on old research, 20-year-old research, and we're like better than that now. And I had to chuckle because I saw a post on social media shortly thereafter, something from either Mark Pimentel or Gemelli Biotech, which basically said the same thing. And I was like, that's where you got that idea from. But this is not old research. This is actually very new, very well substantiated research. Um, there are a lot of researchers and a lot of clinicians out there that see IBS and poor motility and SIBO and bloating and a lot of these more functional disorders as primarily a disorder of the gut-brain axis connection and function. So, if you're not aware of that research, then hopefully you'll be open-minded to that and explore this channel and the IBS Freedom podcast a bit more. But that is not new news, but it's also not old news. Like there's a lot of support to the idea that nervous system dysregulation and vagal tone issues are the main driving factor behind a lot of what you guys are dealing with. I think the big thing is just kind of, again, surrendering to that idea and then pivoting and starting to move towards health. Let's see. Scott said, I got a Lynx implant surgery because of severe GERD. Okay. And it cured his GERD so he could get off years of PPI. Yeah, I mean, that's good. I feel like I think that Stephanie and I were just talking about your case not the couple days ago, if I remember correctly. So if we haven't emailed you back, we should soon. But I had given you the green light to join FODMAP Freedom. I don't think that that's going to stand in your way at all, but it was interesting. I hadn't actually heard of the links. Oh, Megan confirms Reddit is the worst thing she's done for myself. Yeah. Kathy, this must be what I was talking about making friends locally. Kathy said, hang out at the antacid aisle of your local Walmart. I mean, hey, you do you, man. Let's see. Somebody asked when FODMAP Freedom starts next. I answered that. We're open right now. And then the next enrollment period will be mid-January of 25. Shari said, thank you. You're welcome. And CA Colbert said, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome, all of you. Let's see. All right, couple more. Oh, of course, you guys are commenting more. So again, I have to pee moderately badly at this point. So let me just skim. I'm gonna take a couple of little highlights here and see. Jason said, from FODMAP Freedom, I hear a lot of make your body better and it'll make your gut better. I love that. But can you tell me how the cohort will target SIBO more directly? Yeah, well, the thing that I talk about every week in the Q&As is that we're not trying to kill or eradicate or starve SIBO. We're trying to build you a SIBO-proof microbiome and body. But at the end of the program, we have a good in-depth conversation about targeting with antimicrobials and how you might actually target the SIBO directly. I saved that conversation for the end, though, because I don't think it's the first thing you need to do. And it's only going to get you very temporary results if you do. But by the time you get to module 12, what I find is that most people find that they either don't need antimicrobials at all because building a SIBO-proof body and microbiome was enough. Or if they do choose to do antimicrobials, they find that they get a lot of efficacy out of a short pulse of the antimicrobials. So instead of it being month after month after month after month after month, numerous rounds, and you've got to really kick it into the dirt, you could do like a month of oregano and be done with it. So that's kind of the method. So again, modules 0 through 11, I tell my students every single week, we are building you a SIBO-proof, Candida-proof, leaky gut-proof, whatever-proof body and microbiome. And then module 12, we'll talk about how to kill the little suckers if you still think that needs to be done. Let's see. Some people are just being real nice. Oh, cool. Dorothy said she has a call with Stephanie on Monday to consider the program. Yeah, and then Scott, I don't know what that emoji is, but thank you for it anyway. The little like, I'm not cool enough to know what that emoji is. But yeah, averaging stool test makes sense. Yeah. That's really the only way I have wrapped my head around it. Again, I think stool testing is fun. But there's a difference between thinking it's fun and neat versus putting all your eggs in the basket and thinking, oh my God, I need to target Klebsiella. And if I just do that, then all my problems will be solved. No, that's not the answer. Somebody said CA Colbert said they're waiting for their gut zoomer. If I joined FODMAP Freedom, would you be able to integrate those results or customized a bit. Yeah, but again, keep in mind that kind of my whole shtick here is that focusing on the bad guy, the critter, the pathology, the disease, the diagnosis is not the name of the game here. So that to me, like customizing the journey based off of your stool test, which may or may not be accurate, feels a little bit to me like the pushing again. And again, I think to be successful in this program, or maybe in general, I think that you need to kind of loosen your grip on this and relinquish that illusion of control and focus on moving towards health instead. But I'm a nerd, so certainly if you worked with us and you sent it our way, I would at least take a gander at it. Gander. Let's see. Yeah, that Scott said if you have pelvic floor dysfunction, it can cause constipation. Yes. I see it more commonly with constipation, but I think I have seen some people who benefited from pelvic floor physical therapy who had diarrhea. So don't write that off completely if you have diarrhea. Interesting. About the Wellbutrin little link. Let's see. Develop pelvic floor dysfunction 4 years into SIBO from anxiety, depression, stress, plus starting and quitting Wellbutrin quickly. That's interesting. And then pelvic floor dysfunction is most often felt lower in the abdomen, below the belly button. Yeah, I think you made a couple of good points. Again, TMJ is also common, which is interesting. Nervous system issue with vagus nerve, brain, more common with ADHD. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that, but it could be that I just haven't read up on the stuff well enough to comment. I think what I would say is that pelvic floor dysfunction is not uncommon, especially with women, but I do see it in men too. One really quick and dirty thing that you can kind of assess to judge whether or not you have some pelvic floor dysfunction is if you laugh or you sneeze or you cough, do you pee a little bit? Or do you ever have leakage or peeing a bit outside of your own control? Also, for women, there's a higher likelihood of pelvic floor dysfunction if you have ever been pregnant or had a baby. Doesn't matter if it's a C-section birth or a vaginal birth, just the melon pressing against the sling is enough to do it to you. Also, if you ever played any sports where you were like kind of doing this a lot. So I'm picturing things like gymnastics, cheerleading, maybe even running, because you're really like pounding a lot with running. Those things could potentially lead to more pelvic floor dysfunction as well. So a couple of little tidbits that I've seen, but yeah, the TMJ and the ADHD thing is interesting for sure. And then, oh, good. Lily said, popping in to say that your advice has been very helpful. Good. I'm so glad, guys. And then, yeah, Kathy said, now it's time for you to go pee. Indeed. Indeed it is. Hold on one second. Let me grab 2 links. Oh, hold on. I think I grabbed the link that I forgot to put it in the chat. So first off, did I share this? No. Yes, I shared it, but I don't think I verbally said why I was sharing this. So if you go to that link, the fodmapfreedom.com/social link, it's in the description of, I think, all of my videos at this point on YouTube. If you go there, that's kind of the accumulation of all of my goodies. So I link to my Instagram, my YouTube, my podcast, and then there's a lot of freebie downloadable things that you can get. One of them is my diversity tracker printout. So I don't remember now who it was, but to the person who we were talking about diversifying the microbiome and not having a lot of species in the stool testing and needing to eat a diverse diet, you could go to that link. And if you go down to the diversity tracker, you could get that, and that'll help you not only assess, but move towards improving your nutritional diversity so that in turn improves your microbiota diversity. So that's why I had grabbed that link. And then last but not least, I put this a couple of places in the chat, but I'll put it here again. If you are interested in joining FODMAP Freedom, if you think that I can help you, again, if you have bloating, indigestion, fullness or heaviness after a meal, diarrhea, constipation, or mixed IBS, or if you have been diagnosed with IBS, SIBO, indigestion, candida or leaky gut, or even histamine intolerance, there's a high likelihood that I could help you in FODMAP freedom. And frankly, if I don't, I'll just give you your money back anyway. I have a 100% money back guarantee on the program, so you really have nothing to lose. If you want to check that out and book a call with a FODMAP freedom coach to see if you're a good fit and if this program is going to fit your needs, then the link is fodmapfreedom.com/enroll. And you'll see all of the info about the program is on there, and the link to book a call with the FODMAP freedom coach is there as well. So thank you all for tuning in live. It was really fun getting to go through some of your comments and your questions. Like my friend Kathy just said, I do have to pee fairly badly now at this point. So I am going to bid you adieu. But if you want more of me in your life, my new YouTube video, All Disease Begins in the Gut, actually just posted 11 minutes ago. I thought I'd be done by about 3, so I scheduled it to post right after this live stream ended. So if you want to go dissect that idea that all disease begins in the gut just a little bit more, go back to the main part of this YouTube channel and you can find that video. Otherwise, I will see you somewhere here on the YouTubes or Instagram, or perhaps in your email inbox if you're on my email list. So thank you guys for hanging out. It was a pleasure. And hopefully I'll get to see some of you soon in FODMAP Freedom.